Ladies and gentlemen, the meeting of the Wadsworth Planning Commission will please come to order. At the beginning of each meeting, we offer time for public participation. This is a time for general comments to be made to Commission on any appropriate topic. There are 3 projects on the agenda this evening, and the applicants for those projects will be able to address the Commission when we take those items up. Since none of these cases involve public hearing, no public comment or input will be taken at that time since these cases are reviewed. Anyone wishing to comment on any of these projects should do so under public participation. To ensure everyone who wishes to speak has a chance to do so, comments should be limited to approximately 3 minutes. I'll note that several individuals spoke at the last meeting with respect to one or more of the projects that are on tonight's agenda. To be respectful of everyone's time, comments should be limited to new information rather than the repeating information presented at the previous meeting, as those comments will become part of the Commission's record upon adoption of the minutes. Having that said, the first item on our agenda is minutes. We have minutes of the September 8th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, there's a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the minutes of the September 8th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting be approved as submitted.
Second.
Hear the motion, the second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The minutes for the October 13th meeting will be distributed at a further meeting. All right, moving on under old business.
Actually, I think we'll take up...
Oh, excuse me. All right. I'm
go
back to public participation. If there's anyone in the audience who would address the Planning Commission, now is the time to do it. Come forward to the podium, please. Give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Is this on?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Tony Indovina. Live at 1059 Sterling Oaks Drive in Wadsworth. I have 2 things I'd like to say real quick. One is that just a little bit of quick brief history. I grew up on a postage-sized lot about as big as this building in Cleveland, Ohio when I was a kid. Always wanted to move out to the country. My wife and I have moved here since a year now in Wadsworth. One of the biggest reasons we moved here because there was such a great mix of residential and farmland. If we have none left, all we're going to be is another big city. Farmers are losing all their farmland, mostly their livelihood and their way of life, and mostly their income. If you watch any 60-minute program or anything else, you'll see that it's happening. I had the thrill of my life 2 weeks ago. I was able to ride with Farmer John, who farms the land behind our house. I was able to ride with him in the combine to harvest that field, and he and I had a great chance to talk for a little while. And he even expressed the same thing. We're losing all our farmland. We have no place to farm anymore. Okay, so that's my biggest question on that one. So again, you need to take into consideration that if we have no farmland, our farmers are also going to not have a way of life. They're going to take away their livelihood and their family as well. And the second concern I have is they're going to put a retention pond if they proceed with this development. My concern with that is leaking and flooding. I don't know a lot about retention ponds, but our property is about 15 feet below the height of that land. And from my understanding is that water goes into the retention ponds and it seeps down into the ground. So if that water is going to seep down, it's going to come running down on our property. And also, I don't know if they overflow, but if they do, we're going to have a major flood in our yard. That's my big concern, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name is Stephen Lust. I live at 1100 Sterling Oaks Drive. I'm a current member of the Board of Directors of the Villa of Sterling Oaks Condo Association. I'm speaking to the renter Reimer Reserve Subdivision Development. The current topography of this area results in an overflow of water downhill onto the Voso property. In September 2020, the villa spent more than $43,000 on a major excavation project to manage extreme water issues runoff from this farmland. The project required the reshaping of our property to redirect water flow and create barriers to channel fast-moving, excessive water flow from this farmland away from Vosel residents. One of our major concerns is when 25 homes, roads are constructed on this site, what happens to all the water runoff? The geotechnical earthwork guidelines that the people proposed stated that prior to construction, all topsoil, vegetation, or other deleterious materials should be completely stripped and grubbed from the footprint of the proposed building and pavement areas. All surfaces should be sealed and sloped to promote positive drainage of water off the site. These guidelines appear to create major drainage issues for Sterling Oaks, as well as potential removal of natural plant and tree barrier from the new development. The developer's proposal is that the water will go into retention ponds. How does this protect the villas from flooding issues and overflow water issues? Jeff Kaiser stated last month that these ponds are designed to release water onto our property. We are opposed to this regardless of the designated flow rate of this water. The one large retention pond that borders Bry Lake is to release water into that lake. We have a major concern about more water going into that lake. My former board member, Gail Mauger, will speak to our concern of Briar Lake Dam. Thank you for your attention and our concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name's Gail Mauger. I live at 1060 Sterling Oaks Drive. I've attended several of the meetings in discussion about Reimer Reserve. I've read the reports about the mines, but there's another danger lurking. The runoff from the proposed retention ponds is very concerning. We could be looking at a potential disaster. Bry Lake and Bry Lake Dam belong to property at 1570 Reimer Road. The wall of the earthen dam abuts our condo property. Several of our condo buildings are very close to the wall of the dam, and the buildings that I'm talking about house people that are in their 80s. Reimer Reserve is planning on building on property that is a higher elevation than our condos. We all know water runs downhill, so the water from the new retention ponds will probably end up in Bry Lake. I have a copy of a 2015 report written by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. It outlines safety violations concerning that dam. I have a handout. I don't have enough to share. Page 1 is an aerial view of the pond, the dam, and several of our condo buildings that are closest to the dam. The report from the state found issues with the crest and the spillway that needed to be repaired. Page 2 shows the potential hazard area. If you find the map, it has a chart at the top and a map. Area A is the dam. Area B shows the condos that would be affected by a breach. The driveways show up best in this photo. 29 units would be affected. The chart on the same page says that Area B would have a probable loss of life. Area C is Great Oaks Trail. The chart says there could be damage to the roadway. The other pages that I've given you are pretty self-explanatory. I won't read them to you. On Sunday, November 10th, 2019, the Akron Beacon Journal ran an article. Headline, "Failure would be catastrophic." Here's a quote from the article. "There are more than 100 dams across Ohio that are high hazard. In a 4-county area, Medina, Stark, Summit, and Portage, 14 dams are listed as high risk. Bry Lake Dam is number 5. The condition is rated as poor. Again, high hazard means human life is at risk." In a report from the state of Ohio
Okay, could you
entitled...
wrap up your comments very quickly, please?
A report from the state of Ohio talks about the failure caused by prolonged periods of rain, inadequate spillway. Everything from the state of Ohio fits Bry Lake Dam. Within the report, I found that there is no emergency action plan in case of failure at Bry Lake. When I gave you the handout, I gave you a little slip of paper. That's to watch a video on YouTube. WEWS Channel 5 in Cleveland did a 4.5-minute video about failure of dams. There's one located in Michigan that's on that video that looks almost identical to Bry Lake Dam. I would ask that you please take the time and look at the video. Please consider the lives of my neighbors when you're making your final decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone else?
Good evening. My name is Matt Sorochinski, and I live at 1080 Partridge Drive. I'm here with my wife, Melissa, to ask the board to not move forward with the proposed development behind our home, specifically in the southern high-risk zone of the proposed development. We're not against growth, but we believe this plan puts families at risk. And that's not just our opinion. We've gathered substantial data to support this position. First, let's start with the ground itself. The geotechnical report clearly states that the area in the southern end, as well as the northern end of this project, but we're going to focus on the southern end, which is adjacent to our property, is high risk and notably a shallow mine. The geotechnical report's recommendation was to grout targeted areas on roadways and homes in the proposed developed area. There is a significant unaddressed risk that this geotechnical report doesn't even address. And that is grouting only targeted areas under homes and the roadways in this high-risk zone may shift stresses to ungrouted adjacent zones like our home and our neighbors' homes, potentially causing subsidence there as well. We've learned that shallow mines are unique and are prone to what's called a domino collapse effect due to this thin overburden that was identified in the geotechnical report. Sure, grouting might temporarily help new home construction, but research shows it can change the composition of the land, alter groundwater flow, and trigger collapse in adjacent areas, including our homes. These effects don't stop at the property line, and they potentially can spread. Additionally, grouting and digging into old mines can trap or shift gases like radon and methane. These gases can seep into our homes and cause serious health problems. We know the report didn't address this, and we still feel this is a major gap. To sum it up, right now we have really not a whole lot. Our home's been on the property for over 35 years and have had no issues. But we strongly feel that the data suggests this could open up our property to risk. There are documented risks, structural, environmental. There's health risks associated with the backing up of the gases that could affect the adjacent property in that high risk, specifically in the high risk zones, right? Particularly the southern zone that is adjacent to our property. We ask that you recommend the developers not build in the high risk southern zone adjacent to our property with or without grouting. We will be happily to email that data. We have it here, but we also have links that support the data in these comments that we'd be happy to share with the board for your review. Thank you for your time tonight.
Is this data that we don't have ourselves, that you got from someone else?
Yes.
Okay.
We believe.
Yeah, that needs to be forwarded to Mr. Kaiser.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Good evening. My name is Michael Purpura, and I reside at 1134 Partridge Drive in Wadsworth. Thank you for the opportunity to speak regarding the proposed Reimer Reserve Estates development. After reviewing both geotechnical reports submitted for this project, I want to express my continued strong opposition based on the significant and permanent safety risks associated with building homes over abandoned underground mines. While I'm not an engineer, I have reviewed both technical reports. Report 2 is more detailed and includes engineered elements such as grout volumes, drill spacing, grout mix strength, tremie pipe requirements, and sequencing. However, both reports still lack critical engineering safeguards, including predictive subsidence modeling, grout quality control, performance criteria, lateral load and settlement tolerance analysis for foundations, groundwater and mine void interaction analysis, I'll come back to that one, post-grouting verification and confirmation testing. Additionally, Report 1 concludes that there is a high subsidence risk and recommends grouting beneath roadways and residential structures. Report 2 removes that language. Strange. Despite recommending nearly identical remediation, if the risk justified grouting in Report 1, then the risk remains. Nothing has changed underground, therefore the risk has not changed. Removing the conclusion does not eliminate the hazard or the associated liability. I also want to revisit the groundwater and gas concerns. At the previous meeting, I presented evidence that methane gas was discharging from a spring drain at the end of the street at Partridge and Great Oaks. No one's contacted me about that, or I don't know if anyone's looked at that yet. Methane is an odorless, explosive gas, migrates underground. When grouting occurs, groundwater and trapped gases can be displaced, but there's no analysis of how grouting will alter the subsurface gas or groundwater movement, nor any plan to prevent contamination and gas migration toward the homes. To protect the residents, first responders, I strongly urge an environmental review to be required for further consideration. This would include methane gas migration assessment, radon, and look at the EPA and Ohio environmental review standards. By their own admission, in both technical reports, they state very specifically the scope of our services does not include any environmental assessment or investigation for the presence or absence of hazardous or toxic materials in the soil, groundwater, or surface water within or beyond the site identified. And the results should be publicly available so we can review them. Separately, the traffic impacts remain unaddressed. Multiple nearby housing developments, which will be discussed here tonight in and around the Walmart area, could add an estimated 800 additional vehicles to this area. Route 94 already experiences serious safety issues from wrong-way drivers, U-turns over the median, U-turns in general, frequent crashes. I would venture to say that this particular area is the worst in Medina County. Our current road infrastructure is already struggling, by granting a variance for road placement in the Reimer Reserve could reduce these standards and worsen the condition even more. Reimer Road, Partridge Drive, and Clark are already major shortcuts for the area, and it will only get worse. In summary, the land looks stable, but the risks beneath it are permanent. Approving a residential development over abandoned mines without predictive modeling, QA/QC validation, or environmental review creates an unacceptable, irreversible risk for the current homeowners as well as future homeowners in the City of Wadsworth. I respectfully urge the Planning Commission to deny the Reimer Reserve Estates application and instead encourage development in areas that provide safe, stable, and healthy living conditions for all residents. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, I will move on with the agenda. Under old business, the first item is a plan unit development for Vance Farms PUD General Plan, city lots 9850, 10,322 through 10,324, Vance Farms PUD zoning district, Addison Properties applicant. Mr. Kaiser.
Okay, I don't have really anything new to add to this project. It's been on our agenda for some time. Council's already adopted the PUD zone. PUD zoning text. And action on the general plan was tabled. There were some corrections that needed to be made. Those have been done. Off-site improvements, including the turn lanes at Hartman and the new intersection with Smoke Rise Drive. That was page 5 of the plan. So those issues have been handled. Still before council, as we had discussed. The TIF, the Tax Increment Financing Ordinance, are still before council. Approval of that is one of the conditions of approval, because that has to go through several readings, and there's a period of time. They had to wait 30 days to get it on the agenda, then they've got to wait another 30 to 60 after the public hearing before they can actually vote on it. But again, that's really a financing mechanism for some of the off-site improvements that are required by this plan, including part of this particular turn lane, as well as some oversizing of public utilities that's already needed there. So the applicant will install some of those oversized improvements and off-site traffic improvements, but not all of the costs is going to be associated with them. So they'll pay it back and be reimbursed over time through this TIF. Again, one of the issues I brought up last week, and I think it's addressed, looks like the townhouse units are going to face the street, or excuse me, they're going to, at least the townhouse units on Smoke Rise will face the internal private streets. That means the back ends will be on Smoke Rise. So when the time is right, because the actual home builder and developer may be two different parties, we'll need to see a little more detail for the ADC review in terms of landscaping and buffering and what the backs of those buildings are. And, it's a two-way street. That protects the drivers from going by so that, they're not looking at the back ends of the buildings. And likewise, the people who buy those townhouses probably want a little bit of privacy in their quote-unquote backyard areas between that and the street. So that was also made a condition of approval. We already discussed all of the other issues at previous times. So with that, I would make a recommendation to the commission to approve the general plan with the 7 conditions as noted in the staff report. And those conditions do address the TIF agreement, as well as providing, the other state and federal agency letters of approval from ODNR, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and Ohio EPA as needed. So with that in mind, I really, I think this plan is ready to move on.
Are any questions for Mr. Kaiser?
Mr. Kaiser, have we resolved the connection point with Smoke Rise Drive and Hartman Road?
Yep.
Okay.
It's right. It's going to be where it is, and there will be some additional widening and the installation of the turn lanes there. So.
So where does that come in the? I have not seen a.
You haven't seen it on the plan or the?
On the plan, yes.
Right here.
So is that?
Just
How does that address the site issues that we discussed earlier?
What site issues? Site distance on the roadway?
Yes.
Having it there and with the additional pavement and clearing it, yes, there is adequate site distance.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll try and, unfortunately, this page doesn't really help out a whole lot, but there's the bend in the road and the, where Smoke Rise will come out. The match line is over here. So,
Yeah.
and I've driven down that road several times, and with what's being proposed, I think there is adequate site distance. And the traffic study has been reviewed and
Okay.
recommended for approval by our consultant, GPD.
The land for the turn lane, that's going to come out of the Vance Farm property?
If additional right-of-way is needed, it will probably come off of the applicant side or the west side of the street.
The west side.
Yeah. In fact, this, Whoops. Yeah, if I recall, the roadway was not really centered in the, centered very well in the Hartman Road right-of-way. South of the intersection, the proposed intersection, it kind of hangs more to the east side, then it kind of makes that curve, and then it heads a little more to the west side of the right-of-way before going back into the center, north of the site. Those issues have been looked at. I don't remember, Mr. Schmidt, how
Well, maybe the
many
applicant,
meetings have been going, but that has been addressed. And also keep in mind that the county engineer has been involved in these discussions too, because part of the right-of-way is in the
Township.
township, and therefore under the county control.
okay. Any other questions for Mr. Kaiser?
No?
The applicant with us, if you join us, please.
Hi, Jason Friedman, 3401 Enterprise Parkway, Beechwood, Ohio.
I'll ask the question of you. Where does the land come from for the turn lane?
As Mr. Kaiser said, there'll be some adjustment to the current street, and the restriping of the road, and any additional land will come from our property.
Okay, it'll all come from the west
Yes,
to make that turn lane.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Anything?
No?
Any other questions? Any questions for us?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ready for motion?
Yeah, are we ready for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Planning Commission approve the general plan for the Vance Farms Plan Unit Development, subject to the 7 staff conditions.
Second.
You've heard the motion, the second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item is the Plan Unit Development Shadow Creek PUD, city lots 10-332 and 10-235 Reimer Road in the LDR and R1 zoning districts. Mr. Kaiser.
Okay, we did have a public hearing on October 13th. Again, looking through that, we discussed some of the key project features. We're looking at 241 single-family dwellings, 3 different housing or lot types. Again, the project area is roughly 81 acres. And the text, basically single-family homes in either fee simple lots or in townhouse units up here along the west side. I hate rotating it like this because it really shrinks it. But again, with the exception of the private road that serves the townhouse units, all the other streets will be public streets, interconnected to Shepperton to the north. Again, as has been planned since Tiburon Trace went in. Gravity sewer, and again, I think we discussed last week that current gravity sewer ends right here at a manhole in Tiburon Trace. So even though this project will develop in 5 or 6 phases, starting from the southwest corner, moving to the north and northeast, some of the roads will need to be put in as probably as phase 1 because those utility infrastructure needs to go in because there is no gravity sewer on Reimer. All of that's served by a force main which pumps it back up to where this actually ties in with the existing system. Again, overall, the plan in terms of density, lot sizes, et cetera, is very similar to both Blooming Acres and Tiburon Trace. We did table action on this. Some of the issues with the traffic study had not been resolved. There's still some discussion back and forth between the applicant's traffic consultant and our own. Those have yet to be resolved, and as a result, the city engineer was not comfortable with providing a recommendation to commission until that has been finalized. So that is still pending. So my recommendation tonight is to continue to table action on this. But one thing I would like to bring up and offer the applicants a chance to address, at the public hearing, there were several neighbors objected to some of the elements of the project, primarily connecting the subdivision to Shepperton, locating 2 lots in the development right up against the Tiburon Trace property. There were some concerns about how and for what purpose the common space would be used and where it's located. Someone brought out potential impacts from residents throwing trash and yard debris onto adjacent properties, and some comment regarding, well, the PUD provided a density bonus. I'll let the applicant get a chance to answer some of those questions if they like, but I can tell you right now that PUD doesn't offer any density bonus. In fact, the density of this project is basically the same as Blooming Acres, about 3.5 units an acre. It's under the 4 units an acre that is, typical in most of our zoning districts. Issues regarding neighbors dumping yard waste, well, that's not a planning commission issue. That's really a civil matter between property owners. There's no reason why someone couldn't be dumping trash from this site next door or vice versa. And the common open space, all I will say is that it has been located to take advantage of those areas that, one, aren't really suitable for development because of the fact that there's water courses and other environmental issues such as wetlands and steep slopes. And number 2, common open space is a good place to put detention basins for systems like this. Without it, they would have to encumber portions of the development lots. Problem with that is when you have a detention basin that spawns 3 or 4 lots and people don't pay attention to the easements for those things, someone will say, hey, I've got a divot here in my backyard, I want to fill it in. They'll fill it in and create some trouble. So I have no issues, and it's always been part of the PUD concept to allow certain common utilities to be within the open space. Anyhow, that's really all I have to say about this tonight. Again, I recommend tabling it, but the applicants are here. If you have any questions for them or they want to address the committee.
Any questions for Mr. Kaiser? The applicant, excuse me, Mr.
No.
Okay. If the applicant is with us, that you'd like to join us, please.
Bill Sanderson, 1224 French Avenue.
Hard time hearing you.
We can't hear you.
Bill Sanderson, 1224 French Avenue, Lakewood, Ohio.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you this evening. And we responded in writing, and it's part of your package to the public comments. While the comments are valuable, we think that we've adequately addressed them. And as Mr. Kaiser said, this is a PUD, and it was always intended to connect Tiburon to Reimer. Our biggest issue right now is rectifying the traffic study. As you're aware, there's a lot going on in that end of town, and so it makes understanding the traffic study a little bit more complicated. We appreciate the city engineer, Mr. Kaiser, working with us and our experts and your outside experts to resolve this, and we're hopeful that in a short period of time we'll be able to do that. And I, again, appreciate your consideration of our project. We've been working with city staff for a long time to try to develop a plan that we think will be a benefit to both Wadsworth and to us as the developer, and bring a new and needed housing types to the city and this location. And I stand for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant?
No.
Well, we'll look forward to the results of the traffic study.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Ready for a motion?
Yeah, motion to table.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Planning Commission table the application for the Shadow Creek Planned Unit Development until we've had an opportunity to review and respond to the traffic study and other reports.
Second.
Heard the motion of the second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Last item on our agenda is a preliminary plat for Reimer Reserve subdivision, city lots 7043, 7044, and 9197, Reimer Road in the R1 zoning district. Mr. Kaiser.
Okay, well, this obviously was on our agenda at the last meeting. We didn't have enough people really to take action, and there were some issues that had arisen during public participation. Again, just briefly going over it, it's a 25-lot subdivision, also contains 2 open space blocks that you can see on the plan there or above here, blocks A and B, and they're going to be used for stormwater detention purposes. Options for providing sanitary sewer to this development, there are 2 options available. One would be lift station to take the waste back up to the sanitary sewer that exists in Reimer Road. It would then flow to the west down into the main system. There's also the potential that they could take, by gravity, take the sewer and run it down to interconnect with the private sewer on the Sterling Oaks condo site. I believe the applicant has been in touch with the management company for this. I think she provided a letter that's, said that, yeah, we've been in discussion with them, and we're working on coming up with some agreement to make that happen. I think it would be beneficial to both parties, but the issue is that right now, how the sanitary sewer will be provided isn't fully defined, but there's 1 or 2 options that will, and either option still needs approval by the engineering department. So it's really a civil plan matter, not so much a planning commission. Planning commission just needs to make sure that is sanitary sewer available to the site, and the answer is yes. 1 of 2 ways. Which way is going to, ultimately will go, I don't know yet. Same thing, and I'll discuss this briefly since it was brought up during public comments about the detention basins. Before we get into that, we'll talk about drainage and briefly Ohio drainage laws and gravity. As everyone says, it all flows downhill. True. And this site does sit higher than the adjacent site, especially to the Bry property to the west, and also obviously the Great Oaks Trail project to the south. So water's already flowing that way off this site. The purpose of detention basins are this: that the water that flows off this site post-development can't exceed the rate of flow that it's running off right now. Okay, so what happens again if the rate of discharge right now is, I don't know, let's just say a gallon per hour or a gallon of water per minute. After the site is developed, the water runoff cannot exit the site at a rate exceeding a gallon per minute. Okay, so that is the purpose of a detention basin or a retention basin. It holds that excess water. The water is diverted from the homes and the road sites into these basins. It builds up, and then it discharges. It follows the same course where it has been discharging all these years at the same rate as if there was nothing on this site. Okay, so I think that's an important consideration. That, and they are designed intentionally to a certain storm event. I can't remember what ours are, but typically it's like a 50 or 100-year storm event. So it's a storm that you would expect to occur once every 100 years. Okay, so chances are good that it will work in 99.9% of the circumstances. But if you recall, not too long ago, maybe about 10 years ago, within a span of 3 months, we had 2 100-year storm events and one 200-year storm event, all within a span of 3 months. So these will do the job 99.9% of the cases. So I just wanted to bring that issue up about stormwater management because I think what they're proposing makes sense. And again, the key thing to remember is that the post-development flow off the site can't exceed what's flowing off the site right now. In many cases, post-development flow is actually less than pre-development flow. But really, the big issue here with this obviously deals with the abandoned mines. Again, we've known for a long time, a good portion of this site is over abandoned coal mines. So is a lot of the rest of the area. To the south, a lot of Sterling Oaks is in over coal mines. Partridge Drive, the southern half, is under coal mines. To the north, a good portion of Weatherstone has been built over coal mines. Again, we had a developer did provide a geotechnical report, which was actually revised and updated on October 18th. It included additional data because they did do additional probes and additional sampling, and their recommendations were a lot more detailed. Recommendations included the grouting of mine shafts, included earthwork guidelines on how to prepare the building footprints for development, recommendations for prepping the site for adequate foundations and building bearing capacities, recommendations for the design of floor slabs and basement walls to withstand the pressures from lateral, from the side walls, but also from underneath. So again, for these building over coal mine sites, I think the testing results, conclusions, recommendations, both in the original report and the revised report prepared by WGE, I don't think they were unexpected or unusual for areas where there are abandoned mines. And I think we showed one of the figures from the report that showed the mines over the areas I just talked about, over Partridge, the Weatherstone development, and so forth. And really what's being proposed here is not any different than the adjacent neighborhoods. And also at the October 13th meeting, I did note that the mines, including abandoned mines in Ohio, are regulated by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. So the question is, in Ohio, can development occur over abandoned mines? And the answer is yes, they can. Local governments can't adopt laws that conflict with state laws, but they can require additional reasonable studies to assess risks and impacts of potentially building over mine sites, and also require reasonable improvements to stabilize the site to make it reasonably safe for development. As part of the zoning review for the project, the commission could require the applicant to comply with the investigations of the geotechnical engineer. We could have required a report if they didn't provide one initially, because we know that there are mines under the area. But they did provide that, and it looks like the reports, the geotech reports, were actually prepared for the home builder, not necessarily the developer. So the builder of the homes is aware of this, and they want to make the sites as safe as possible. But in that staff report with their recommendations, they were looked at by our engineering department, and they agreed with them, and there are certain actions the applicant will need to undertake with respect to these mines at various stages in the review process. So for instance, right now it's here before you for preliminary plat approval. That doesn't mean any earth is going to be turned in the near future. It just means that we give approval to develop the site with certain conditions. The second phase is they have to go to the engineering department to get civil site plan review. And at that point in time, the applicant's going to need to provide the city engineer with certain formal opinions and recommendations from the geotech engineer that'll have to be incorporated into those civil for construction site plans. Before the actual construction starts, the geotech engineer is going to have to acknowledge that the infrastructure design for the public improvements do include mine stabilization and other features that are going to make the improvements reasonably safe. And again, that acknowledgement is provided by the geotech engineer, but needs to be approved by the city engineer. And then post-construction / before the final plant's approved, the applicant's going to have to basically certify what measures were taken, any additional measures that he deems necessary to be taken by the home builders. And again, those results will have to be in writing and signed off by the city engineer. So there's kind of a double check to make sure that what has been recommended has actually been adopted and installed in order to make these sites suitable for development. Also at the last meeting and tonight as well, we heard some other issues. Again, general safety issues with the mine voids. Again, possible subsidence or ground movement due to construction activity. And again, one resident detecting odors that appear to be methane. I mean, I think they're all valid concerns, but again, one, some of those things are outside of the city's realm to control. If there's concerns with underground gases, issues like that should probably be reported to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. The city doesn't regulate any of that. All of the underground minerals and gases are regulated by Department of Natural Resources. Likewise, another option might be the Ohio EPA. I know that they have some kind of air quality division. If there are any odors, it should really be reported to them. But right now, you know, again, under Ohio law, as well as our city's own subdivision regulations, any projects that, well, subdivision approval decisions have to be made on the project's compliance with the adopted development regulations. Again, public concern, I can understand it, but in the absence of any technical documentation, we can't use issues that are outside of our control to say yay or nay to a project. We have to approve it on its own merit. Does it comply with our regulations for development? And it does. I'm not saying that, and again, in terms of the gas smell, that said that emanated from a pipe down near Partridge and Great Oaks. I'm not sure where that pipe is or where it goes to. Is it, you know, is it detecting gas? It might be. Is it coming from this site or is it coming from other sites? You know, I don't know. We've not heard any report. We've not got anything from any other division, state or federal agency to really document that. And again, I think the geotechnical report, which was revised and included a lot of details, was reviewed by the city engineer. He found it to be professionally adequate in its assessment, conclusions, and recommendations. And again, we are going to require the developer to basically stick by and perform those mitigation in order to keep this project moving forward. I recognize the neighbors' concerns, but again, at this point, there's nothing written in the record that would give us an ability to say no. Because again, issues, they're outside of our control. We don't enforce federal or state regulations regarding natural resources or pollution. So we need to act on this according to our own zoning regulations and development regulations. I'd also note, though, that if this is approved tonight and it starts moving forward the full development process, we still retain the authority to require additional geotechnical oversight during construction if it's warranted. Also, if EPA or DNR would come out and do a study and say, hey, we found an issue here, they can issue a stop work order on it, under things that are under their control. Okay, but what I'm saying is that since you can develop over mines in the state of Ohio, we can't just say, well, no, we think it's unsafe. We need to make sure there are reasonable precautions in place in order to, in order to move forward. I think that's been done. I'd also point out that some of the recommendations in this this last geotech are basically what's happening up at Briarthorn right now. They uncovered some mine voids. We've known for years that they were built over some coal mines. They did some additional studies for a potential home builder, and they found a couple areas of concern. And they're actually doing some of these ground filling situations to stabilize a few of the building pads in that site. So again, what was recommended is really not unusual in this part of the country. So with that in mind, the applicant has complied with all of the regulations. We talked about 2 variances to the street that are required, and one to the cul-de-sac length and also to the spacing between it and Partridge Drive to the west. Those variances are reasonable because of the shape of this parcel and the fact that it's developed on all 4 sides. There's no ability to connect the cul-de-sac to any other street, and the intersection spacing between Partridge and this is what it is. It's as far away as can be. So I, again, would recommend approval of the 2 conditions to the subdivision regulations pertaining to the cul-de-sac length and separation between the 2 streets, and recommend approval of this preliminary plat with the 5 conditions noted in the staff report. And you notice a good number of these conditions do relate to the geotechnical analysis and the requirement that the recommended improvements are put in place before any sites are built on. That's all I have.
All right, Commission, have any questions, Mr. Kaiser?
Yeah, Mr. Kaiser, tonight was the first night I've heard about Dry Lake. Is that considered a dam?
I believe it is. That's yes, and I've seen the article that Ms. Mauger provided. She gave it to me a couple of years ago. Problem is, Dry Lake is not on this property.
Right.
And there's a lot of issues with that. It was installed when it was in the township. The city had no control, and I believe ODNR had to approve that. I don't doubt that there may be some issues, but again, that's something that the ODNR would need to enforce. And again, going back and it's a good introduction because it ties into comments I made earlier about the detention basins. There were some comments made that, well, hey, if the runoff increases here, it's going to erode the base of that dam. Well, the purpose of the detention basin are to ensure that the water that's running off the site doesn't increase after development. So anyway, I think they're important considerations, but again, the only thing I think the developer needs to be concerned with is to make sure that, our engineers need to make sure that the post-development runoff doesn't exceed what's coming off the site right now. And that's one of the things our engineering department looks at.
Yeah, I'm satisfied that the runoff, when this is fully built out, would be far less than they're experiencing now, just because stormwater will be directed to stormwater
I think
collections.
it is too, because a lot of times, here's what happens when the stormwater basins will not only pick up water running from this site, but it's also going to pick up any additional runoff from the properties on Partridge. that flowed this direction too. That's typically not accounted for when, I don't believe, when they do the calculations for what's the base, the size of the basin, what do we need to detain. So it typically ends up detaining more than what they have to. If that makes any sense. So this basin will not only detain
Good observation.
what's flowing off this site, but any additional water that's flowing onto the applicant site from the adjacent properties to the north and to the west. Because I think you're right, the general slope is from the northeast down to the southwest.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Kaiser? The applicant?
Oh, go ahead.
Excuse me.
I did have a question. So on the, trying to think how to phrase this. So it had been stated that the Planning Commission has the ability to require additional study or whatever to assess risk. But we have limitations because it has to become underneath our purview. So for example, you'd mentioned like the gases and that sort of thing, that's not under our purview. So that's not something that we could require.
Correct.
Something that I had thought of and something that had actually been mentioned again this evening is, and it has to do with the mines. And what, I know that many of the individuals here are aware, but there's many properties that have been developed that have been over mined. So for example, a portion of Partridge is over mines already. Weatherstone, you just mentioned Briarthorn. There's plenty of pockets throughout the community that have that. And so those have already been developed. And so, this is a property owner that's asking for the same thing, the same ability to do that. But the question I have is there was a concern that was brought up is that, maybe a property wasn't required at the time to do any sort of mitigation when it was developed, because it was developed many years ago and maybe they had different standards then. And what if that triggers something when you have development on a property? What if that triggers something? Is there a way that, or are we able to find out or have some sort of assessment done that, is there potential for that? Or if it's not, it may or may not, I don't know.
Well, I think that's, you're not...
Or is that going overreach? I mean, just, I'm asking, are we able to do that?
I think that would be overreach. We have to really look at this property. We know very well that, again, the mine boundary, and I think it clearly shows here, the blue areas show the known mine boundaries. Portions of it are on the Partridge Drives, a good portion of the Sterling Oaks, and even here to the north. But to say, well, we want you to test off this site to take, I think that's overreach, and I think...
Maybe not test, but what I'm saying is given their, this is an expert, given their expert understanding of this, having construction being done, obviously there's a, property owner and somebody wants to develop this and as I said, properties just like this have been developed throughout the community, and so individuals have a right to buy and sell and develop their properties. But at the same time, I'm just, wondering, do we have the ability or are they able to do that, to be able to assess any potential additional risk or not?
Would be at our expense, and I think it's...
Well, we're not the developers.
We're not the developers, so it's not appropriate.
City's not the-
But you bring up something else. Let's assume this gets developed and all of a sudden maybe there's a subsidence issue on one of these lots. We don't have any way to know whether that subsidence was caused because of work on this lot or there was some collapse or shift in the ground on one of the other parts of the mine that are not on this property. I guess that's, I don't want to sound callous, but that's why there's courts. That's why there's, civil law. We can't prevent, we cannot, as I mentioned last time, someone says we need 100% guarantee. No one can do that. Even the civil engineer who prepared the geotech's not going to do that. That's why the language includes, this is what we've studied, and conditions outside of these drilling areas might be a little bit different. Because you can't predict and you can't mitigate all risks. And that's why, again, a lot of the terms that you'll see in legalese are, what is reasonable? What's reasonably safe? What are reasonable improvements? What are reasonable requirements? And I think that it's done. I'm not willing to stick my neck out and go against the report of a qualified civil engineer who specializes in underground mine issues. Again, I think they've acknowledged that there are mines. They've acknowledged that there are problem areas. He feels confident enough to say that here are things you can do that are going to mitigate some of the concerns.
And then part of the condition is that occurs prior to approval.
And so we can say, then fine, you've spelled out a list of things that need to be done. We're going to make sure as you make your way through the development process, before you start selling lots, that you, the developer, have made these improvements to make sure the lots are reasonably safe. You've done your due diligence. You've done what you can. They could do all the work you want here, and you could end up here with a mine subsidence issue in an area that's not even under the known mines. Because keep that in mind too. The map is of known mines. I have heard that this only represents about 50 or 60% of the mines that are actually out there. So there's no telling. That's the problem. It's you go looking for trouble, you're sure to find it. And this is what we know, but there's a lot that we don't know. Not only for this site, but really any other part of the city.
All right, any other questions?
Mr. Kaiser, I'm sorry, I was not here for the October 13th meeting, and we haven't seen minutes yet. What is the depth of, what's the distance between the surface and the known mines?
You know what? I don't know that offhand. In the study that you got, the attachment, there are boring logs that talk about this. And I thought at one point in the text of the language, and again, it varies. I thought I saw something.
Yeah, they mentioned some of the where some of the coal seams were.
Yeah, some of the boreholes should be here. Okay. In one case, it said, the boreholes should be drilled to the lowest mine elevation, which is about 45 to 55 feet below the existing ground surface. But again, that might change from boring location to boring location.
Okay. And is this development proposing basements under these homes?
I believe so, but I'll leave that to the applicant. Yeah, I think they were just standard single-family homes with basements.
Okay. If we pass this recommendation this evening, what additional steps then remain for the developer?
The next step is they have to go to the city engineering department with their civil site plans for all of the proposed grading, all of the proposed utilities, streets, etc. And because you can see there at least was one boring done within the proposed street area, and with the conditions recommended not only by the geotech but incorporated by the civil engineer, they're going to have to show us, they're going to have to demonstrate to the engineer that here's what we're doing. Our plans include these mitigations at these spots to stabilize, and fill the mine voids and provide stabilization. So that'll be part of their approved plans. Then once they start construction, as we watch the utilities and the roads and everything go in, that's one of the things that the inspectors are going to watch to make sure is being done. And that civil engineer that prepared this geotech report, he's also going to have to sign off on it too and say, hey, I was present, or he had his crew present, here's what we did, and city engineer signs off on that before final plat would get to council.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Lee. That's all I have.
Any other questions for Mr. Kaiser? The applicant with us, if you please.
Good evening, Lori Runyon, 5049 Cottingville Road, Medina, Ohio. I want to thank you tonight for listening to our plans, and I believe we have addressed all of Jeff's concerns, and we would appreciate preliminary plan approval tonight so that we can proceed with our construction plans. Do you have any questions for me?
You're obviously aware there's going to be a lot of groundwork going to have to be done before you do anything.
Yes, I learned a lot more about coal mines than I cared to learn. Yes.
Every
most
one of those little dots up there is a potential issue that's going to have to be investigated. It's going to be whether it's going to have to be filled or whatever.
Those are the boring locations.
Those are the
that's a boring location.
locations that they've already currently bored.
Yeah.
What they're actually going to do is they're going to drill 12 to 16 holes, I believe 12 holes on each lot at the house site, and wherever they go down and find a void, then they will grout them. So, and the inspector will be on site from Wirtz. I mean, he will be on site the whole time inspecting it. I mean, we're counting on his engineering expertise, and from what I understand, he, has a good reputation, knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and that plan should be part, disclose
Correct.
that to Mr. Davis as part of the, so basically you'd be doing more testing than what's actually been done here.
Oh, correct. There'll be 12 test holes drilled on each of the lots where there is a mine found. They're going to drill 12 additional holes on each footprint of where the house is going to be. So there'll be 12 additional test holes on each of the house sites where the mines have already been located, already been found.
And the documentation for that is what's going to be provided to the engineering department for the record.
Correct.
That Mr. Davis is going to have to look at and say, okay,
Right.
here are the results for lot number 25, and here's what the geotech said they did. Here's the improvements that they've made, and Mr. Davis would have to basically agree with that. One of the other questions that was brought up, and I don't know, typically basements are excavated to 8 to 10 feet below grade. Are you planning to have basements in these homes or slabs?
refer
Or is
to
that
the
for the
builder.
home developer?
Tom Sutcliffe Trees Homes, 6860 West Snowville Drive, Brecksville. Yeah, we plan to have basements here in Northeast Ohio. Everybody has stuff, so they like to have basements. Also, the geotechnical advice we're getting, we paid for the borings because we have a lot of concerns about the mines. And so we will not build a home someplace that we can't warranty internally. We're privately held, we're not public, and we personally back every home we build. So we're going to certify these homes, and we've required the developer to go to the extensive testing they're doing. And we had to put 12 to 16, and these were 2-inch bores. We're going to put 6-inch bores under our homes, and there are going to be dozens of them. And we're going to go 1 yard beyond each one, too, just to make sure peripheral lots aren't affected as well. So this is a concern of ours, and we feel comfortable with the mitigation efforts that are being taken by the Wirtz Engineering Company, who've done this all over Northeast Ohio. Otherwise, they wouldn't come here tonight and represent Trees Homes in such a way. We wouldn't be buying these lots. So we're very comfortable, and we actually have to disclose the mines to our customers and show them the mitigation techniques we took with the stamp drawings, which we know will cause some people some fears, and they may not purchase from us. But our job is to intellectually prove to ourselves and then them that these homes are safe.
You mentioned peripheral. Oh, sorry.
Excuse me. Obviously, if you find a void, you're going to fill it up with something.
We have to. Yeah, there are inspectors there independently from the city that will be there as they do these bores. And they use probes versus bores. It's a whole different technique. A lot of experts in the room, but I'm not one of them. But I've sat and watched these, and you can tell voids. You can tell a coal seam from a stone seam. We watch for all those things. And the borings are online for everyone here to see. So those are submitted, and there's very clear exhibits at the end as to what depth everything was located. And not only that, not only where the void is, what's above the void and what's below the void, because each of those things has structural integrity. And if it's something that's coal above it, we have to do more structural work up top. If it's sandstone, all those things make a difference. So we sent bores back twice. The first one we saw made us nervous, and then we redoubled our efforts and asked for mine bores throughout the site. And so it's a very comprehensive study from Dries Homes End. So we're very comfortable.
You mentioned some boring, and then you said that something about if something triggered, you would do to see if it happened.
Certainly. Whenever we see a void, we're going to fill it. And they don't fill the cave. There's a lot of misunderstandings, and everyone here's Googled it, I'm sure, but they're not filling the cave. They're creating columns under the cave with a sloughing material that's density caused it to go like this until it crests on the cave roof and leaves a gap around it. So whatever's going through the cave now that's ephemeral will still go through the cave ephemerally. So if he sees a pipe, it's from the cave, it's still going to be there doing the same thing. But it will not take gases and push and trap them either upstream or downstream of that cave. I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but we're not blocking the cave, we're creating pillars under the cave, which is why there's 12 to 16 in one single house footprint.
It's not like foam insulation that fills.
Oh, no, it's concrete. It's a specific concrete that's moisture inhibiting.
I'm mainly interested in seeing how if there is a benefit or not to a, let's say, obviously you have lots that are your own, but then there are lots that adjoin property owners here. And
Correct.
I'm trying to see if there's a benefit to them or not. Like you had said, it sounded like peripheral means to me on the outside.
Correct.
And does that...
Yeah, what's kind of funny is that if you look at the overlaid, you see the blue and the colors where the mines are mapped. Keep in mind, those blue lines are not mines. That's the graphing method they use to show the area. We've bought multiple pieces of land in Wadsworth that show the mines, and they're not there. You're familiar with the one that we're working on right now. We saw mines were just like this over the northern portion. We went and did 20 mine probes at about $38,000, and there wasn't a single mine up to 80 foot deep. So these maps were made in the 50s and 40s, and they didn't have GIS. They found milestones and marks around the city and measured with tapes and ropes. So these are not accurate whatsoever. And your point is, could there be mines in the middle there? We don't know. There could be mines over every home that's built here. And we can only do how far do you go to your diminishing return.
Yeah, that's a good point to make too, because one of the first mine maps that found up in my office was from like abandoned mines from 1897. There was no GIS back in those days, and who knows what surveying records, and I think that's why I mentioned it. That map probably only showed 50 to 60% of what was out there. I think, as Mr. Sutcliffe pointed out, that there might be errors if the surveyors picked out the wrong marker. Maybe those mines are there, but they may be shifted 300 feet to the northwest or 300 feet to the southeast.
If you look at the boring map, you'll see it's like playing the game of Battleship. You know, we did bores around many peripheral areas. Maybe I misspoke, but you can see where we did bores beyond the mines that were mapped, looking for them. And at a point we couldn't find anymore. So you can see we kind of hit them, and we did more around them to make sure it was really mine, and then we go peripherally around them and found none. So if we feel good, Dries feels good about what we see here.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you very much.
The only other thing that I would add,
Yes.
we didn't discuss tonight, but I think I brought up last meeting, as Mr. Sutcliffe said, you know, disclosure to the potential buyers as well. In the conditions of approval, there is one condition that would require the final plat to basically reference not only the geotech study, you know, get that recorded, but also provide a disclosure that yes, abandoned mines were noted along the site. along with a recommendation for any potential owner to obtain the mine subsidence insurance. So we do what we can to make sure that everything gets disclosed. And I think the developer, and I think in this case, it seems the homeowner has, or the home builder, I should say, has an interest in making sure that they've got a product that is going to be sellable.
Okay, anything else? All right, we ready for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Planning Commission approve the 2 variances required for the proposed public street for cul-de-sac length and block spacing, and the preliminary plat, subject to the 5 staff conditions.
A second?
You heard the motion, the second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you all for coming this evening. That's all on our agenda. Mr. Kaiser, is there any new business?
Not tonight, but next meeting is November 24th. We do have 2 cases that evening. Both are minor plats. I'll see if we can get an earlier start time.
Will the Shadow Creek,
Hopefully there's no committee meetings that evening and we can...
will the Shadow Creek one be back? Or not?
If Shadow Creek is not back, I told them, I said, I'm willing to schedule a special meeting.
Oh, okay.
Work with you guys
All right.
if we're ready to act on that.
Okay, good.
That could be on the agenda. If it gets postponed again, I think we could certainly have a public, or a special meeting. I don't think there's any major concerns. Knock on wood, should the traffic study not show any additional failures, the drastic reductions in level of service.
Okay. Commissioners, anything else to bring up this evening? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.